Okay, the Board of Directors Entry Midwifery meeting is convening at 8:09 a.m. on June 18th, 2020 at the Health Licensing Office in Salem, Oregon. I will now call roll. Wendy Smith.
Here.
Sarah Taylor.
Here.
Beth Iva.
Here.
Christine Morales.
Here.
Lynette Pettibone.
Here.
Kelsey Fisher.
Here.
And I'm Meredith Klein. Members, during the course of the meeting, please wait to speak until recognized by the chair. That's going to be difficult today. Once you have been recognized, please state your last name. Audience members are asked to sign in on the attendance roster. Public interested parties' feedback may be heard during the public interested parties' feedback period. Is indicated on the agenda. It is. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manner, and protocols when conducting board business. This meeting is called to order. Now, do we ask for if there's any public here to state their name?
This is Sylvie. This is Sylvie. I haven't heard anybody else log in. We hear a chime on the phone when somebody either logs in or logs out.
And Sharon emailed and said she's on the phone.
Sharon Fuchs is on the phone.
Oh, Sharon Fuchs is on the phone.
I am. I sent an email to Sammy.
Perfect. Thank you, Sharon.
Okay. And I'll put it on mute.
Is there any other public members on the phone? Nope. Okay. So Sharon, just so that you're aware, they haven't approved the agenda yet. They'll approve the agenda, and then we're going to leave this room. This phone line will stay on. You're welcome to stay on as long as you want. We're estimated to be in executive session until 10 a.m. We will not start back up into regular session prior to 10 a.m. So if you want, you're welcome to, once we go into executive session, you're welcome to hang up and then call back right before 10 a.m. Or you can stay on. That's entirely up to you.
No, I think I'll go back.
Okay.
This is Kelsey, and I move to approve the agenda.
This is Wendy, and I second.
So now do I say the agenda is approved?
No, you have to do roll call and everybody has to vote.
Okay, Wendy?
Aye.
Sarah? Sarah, do you approve the agenda?
Aye.
Okay, thanks. Beth?
Aye.
Christine? Aye. Lynette?
Aye.
Kelsey?
Aye.
And Meredith, aye. Okay, so we've approved the agenda. And now we're going to enter executive session, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, the Board of Direct Entry Midwifery will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602F and ORS 676.595 for the purpose of considering information related to investigations filed exempt from public disclosure at 8:13 a.m. on June 18th, 2020. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are required to leave the room. Are there any representatives of the news media in the audience?
No.
No. Recognizing there is no news media in attendance, all other audience members are asked to leave the room during the executive session. We will return to open session before taking any final action or making any final decision. We are now in executive session, so come in.
Okay. Maria, you ready? Mm-hmm. All right, so we are back on regular session. It is 10:50 a.m. Meredith, go ahead and take over control. I do believe Kelsey had something she wanted to say.
So we need to, Meredith need to read her script.
Oh, yes, Meredith, read your script. Good job, Kelsey.
Okay.
Read your script about being back in regular session, and somebody just logged in. Sarah, is that you?
Yes.
Okay, Sarah's back on.
Okay. Okay, so the Board of Directors unanimously will now exit executive session and reconvene open session at 10:50 a.m. No final decisions were made and no votes were taken in executive session. Members of the audience are welcome to return, and representatives of the media may once again report all board discussions and actions.
Excellent. So this is Sylvie. We are on the agenda on item number 5.
Is that items for board action?
Yes, sorry. Yes.
Okay, so this is Kelsey, and I make the following motion that in case 16-8307 that we close unsubstantiated. In case 17-8737 that we issue a notice of revocation and allow the option of requesting an informal settlement conference, and that we give the chair the authority to sign and approve.
Yeah, Kelsey, sorry for interrupting. Can we do them one at a time, please? In case somebody doesn't agree, plus we have to keep the one, so not that case, but yeah, let's just do one at a time, please.
Oh, okay, so then we'll just go with the 16-8307. I move to close unsubstantiated.
This is Wendy, and I move to close unsubstantiated.
I second it.
You second it, Wendy?
Oh, I thought I first it, but sure.
No, Kelsey's firsting
Sorry.
it.
Kelsey first it, you second it. Okay, so let's take a vote then.
Got it.
Kelsey?
Aye.
Lynette?
Aye.
Christine?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye. Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Wendy?
Aye.
And Meredith, aye. Okay, what's the next one, Kelsey?
All right. I move that in case 17-8737 that we issue a notice of revoking a license, so we allow the option of requesting an informal settlement conference, that we give the chair the authority to sign and approve the notice, and we acknowledge that this notice triggers other penalties from previous notices. And that we acknowledge if the case goes to a hearing, we assess costs up to $5,000.
This is Wendy, and I second.
Okay, let's take a vote. Kelsey?
Aye.
Lynette?
Aye.
Christine? Aye. Beth?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Wendy?
Aye.
Meredith? Aye.
That motion carries on to the next.
On to the next.
So this is Kelsey, and I move that in case 19-9374 that we close without further disciplinary action. Or I apologize, we close without disciplinary action.
This is Wendy, and I second.
Okay, let's take a vote. Kelsey?
Aye.
Lynette? Lynette? Maybe we lost Lynette. Christine?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Wendy,
Aye.
Meredith, aye. Lynette, are you back on?
I am, and my vote is yes, aye.
Okay, great, so that also passes.
This is Kelsey. Again, I move that in case 20-9613 that we start an investigation.
This is Christine, I second. Okay, let's vote. Kelsey?
Aye.
Lynette?
Aye.
Christine?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Wendy?
Aye.
And Meredith, aye. Okay.
Okay, so this is Sylvie. We are now on item number 6 on the agenda, which is administrative rule deliberation. However, right before we get into the details of that, I want to talk for just a quick second. Meredith will need to leave the meeting roughly around 11:40. The way your guys' rule is written is that if the chairperson is unable to complete the term of the board meeting, just, so you guys are going to have to elect somebody to finish up the board meeting for today. So if we get close to getting to the 11:40, which is like 40 minutes from now, then I may stop your guys' discussion and have you address that, and then go back to the discussion. But we're going to move forward with item number 6 for now, and when we get close to that 11:40-ish, then we'll see how things are going, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
In the room, Sammy's in the room. She's on the computer, and I know that this is hard because you're not able to visualize, but in your packet, she did try and color code your rules. So if you get to the rules section, and I'll just let Sammy take over, but I do believe she is on the second page of her rules.
Yes. It basically...
What packet are you talking about?
So it's your board packet, the one that had the...
Like the meeting materials that were
Yes.
emailed to us.
Correct.
With the agenda,
Yeah, if you
right?
click on the agenda link.
Okay, I'm going to go back to that.
So I discussed a few things that needs to be discussed since we've been kind of on hiatus from being in the office. We haven't been able to meet to discuss some of the risk items that you had been focusing on the last few meetings. So I kind of laid out what you guys had determined at the last meeting. And then really the only question you left open-ended was the question about proteinuria and how you want to move forward with that. And then we would need to also discuss if this is what you want the Rules Advisory Committee to look at. Do you want to review them again before a Rules Advisory Committee looks at them? And kind of what you imagine for your timeline to be if we're starting from today as fresh. Does that make sense?
This is one. Can someone clarify which email? I have like a lot over the last week.
Okay, so this would have come from Maria. Sammy, who sent out the materials? Who sent out this?
Me.
So it would have came from Sammy Patnode. When did you send
And
it?
it's on Monday, June 15th. That's when mine is.
Yes, that.
And
Yeah,
it's one of the
correct.
attachments at the bottom there.
Right, there's no passwords, it's not protected, this is the public document thing.
And then I think there were additional resources that she sent yesterday.
Yes.
If we're talking about, for the proteinuria.
Yes.
But, yeah. Okay, I think I found it. Thank you.
And so we're about not quite halfway into that whole packet. It's behind the tab that says Administrative Rule Deliberation Risk Assessment Indication. And then second page of the rules she's got number 9 highlighted in like a reddish.
Yeah, it's just like that's where the break for each, indicates the transfer pre-existing, and then, so you kind of have a delayed or between.
Looking at that, and I think that we've got it backwards on which place active cancer should be in.
Okay.
If I remember correctly from our last deliberation, we wanted, like, if somebody has active cancer in the current pregnancy, so antepartum, that's a transfer. But if they have a history of cancer, that's not an indication to transfer. There was a lot of community confusion about active cancer in the indication to transfer.
So you want A under 10, not 9.
Yeah. That's my recollection. I don't know if anybody else has something to add to that.
This is one and I concur with Kelsey.
This is Meredith. That's also my recollection.
So they want it
Where it says active cancer needs to be under 10 and delete it under 9.
okay. Easy enough.
Correct.
Got it.
Oh, I see, yeah. Okay.
Anything else in 9 and 10? Because 10 goes all the way on to page 3.
Then I had a question on Q, if that should be renal or kidney disease. Kind of went back and forth on the recording, and you never really landed on one specifically.
They mean the same thing. I think either is fine. I think that hopefully midwives would understand that renal means kidney.
Okay.
That is funny.
So you're talking about Q there, chronic renal disease, in the
Yes.
under number 10, indication for antepartum transfer. Yes.
And then to the proteinuria.
That is funny.
So was that the only thing left under?
That's all that you
Number 10.
had listed on in the meeting. I went back and listened to the meeting, and this was your end.
I think that renal is fine because we used renal in a different place and we haven't used kidney.
Okay. Anything in 11? Doesn't look like there's any changes that you guys talked about last time, but just one. Do you want us just to go to the spots where you had changes from last time, or do you want to go through page by page?
Like their version of
I think let's go to the place where we were making changes.
Okay. So then on page 6 of the rules, not the whole packet, but page 6 of the rules, number 16. So this is the pre-existing, but the consult. So there's A and B has some new. So bold is new. Correct, Sammy?
Yeah. You just specified what type of provider you needed to be with. And that would be the same for under 17, A and B.
So we added the type of provider there?
Yes.
That's the difference?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Do we want to make them consistent with each other? Because in one section we have consult must be with a provider with hospital privileges and who provides cesarean deliveries. And under 17 we don't have the hospital privileges part. But I feel like that's implied. If somebody does cesarean, they have hospital privileges somewhere. So maybe just deciding if we want to include the hospital.
But it could be somebody who was retired. I mean, I don't know if that would count, but that it could be somebody that was, like, actively is still practicing as a surgeon.
That does.
So do you want it to have hospital privileges in 17, or do you want the hospital privileges taken out of 16?
I feel like the hospital privileges part is redundant, personally. If it's already with a doctor who provides cesarean, then they, if they can provide cesarean, they must have privileges somewhere. But that's, I'm not real attached one way or the other.
Does anybody remember, did we do that deliberately? Having
Yeah.
it be different in those two places? There's something about the VBAC that we wanted to itemize those things out? Or you think it was just an oversight that you noticed?
I don't think there was a reason. I can't recall one.
I suspect it was just oversight. I don't remember anything specific.
Okay.
Wendy, do you remember, because when...
I don't know. I don't remember.
So Wendy, would you assume that somebody who provides cesarean deliveries already has hospital privileges? Would that be an assumption for you?
I mean, yeah. Because you have the word provide, which is present tense, and so, as opposed to provided, which would be like a retired person, I suppose, or somebody that doesn't have access to in a hospital. So I guess just by using provide makes me think
Maybe it
they're
was...
actively doing it in a place and hopefully not in a bathtub someplace.
I think it might have been the
Okay, so
naturopathic
then
part. They can be called
it seems fine
physicians
for us
and
to
they may
take it
not
out.
have hospital privileges.
So would a...
Unless somebody,
Sorry.
So we're still thinking about why it's different. Anything to do with a naturopath? Would a naturopath change any of this stuff?
They don't get to do cesarean.
Yeah.
No.
So then let's make it like 17, which it takes out the with hospital privileges piece.
Mm-hmm.
Comfortable?
So that'll also mean changing it to physician. If we want to make them the exact same.
Oh, maybe that was...
That was it. 'Cause maybe I don't know.
But is there anyone who's not a physician who has hospital privileges and is doing cesarean?
No.
No. Okay. So then I think that they can be the same. And I think I like the language in 17 better.
Okay. So change 16 to mirror 17, the bold part. Got it.
I'm going to read it back. Consult must be with a physician who provides cesarean delivery. Everyone agrees.
I like it.
Yep.
Nobody disagrees.
Okay, we're on page 8 of the rules, right above number 18. It's adding the active renal disease, which I'm assuming you're fine with because that was part of the other one. This is in consult antepartum.
so in the antenatal, it's chronic renal disease, and in the history, it's chronic, and in the antepartum, now it's active.
I think this is a consult. The other one was a
Transfer.
transfer. Is that right?
Antepartum transfer is
Yes.
chronic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so this is where the proteinuria arguments come in, or the issues, right? Right?
Yes, yes.
And I think, Silka, you had mentioned that...
You can't ask her questions.
Oh, okay. So I think Silka maybe had mentioned the last time that, or maybe, I thought it was Silka, that that urine dips are not necessarily even community standard anymore in care.
That was what there isn't a strong evidence base for doing them as a routine screening.
I think, I mean, I don't disagree with that, kind of. I mean, in my OB world, it is routine dips are still being done, and I believe in the hospital-based midwives, they're still doing it.
Look, this is the thing, we only do them for, like, if they have high blood pressure, if they've gained a lot of weight, if they're having symptoms, or they have a history. I mean, there's like a long list of things that we do them for, but we don't routinely do them for all of our patients. But we do them a lot, but not routinely for every single patient, every visit.
Okay. I mean, so I don't know how to work this in. If you're not doing it, then you're not going to follow it up, right? And I think so the literature that I sent out may be moot. I think what the literature shows is that if you do have new onset proteinuria in pregnancy, even without evidence of hypertension, somewhere between 36 and 50% of those people are going to go on to develop preeclampsia in the third trimester.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, I think that that's a really great. I think that that's a really great educational piece, but I'm not sure how to incorporate it into the rules.
Right.
Because
I agree.
we're going to be looking. Right. We're looking for preeclampsia regardless, and yes, if there's new onset proteinuria, then we're a lot more likely to see preeclampsia develop. But is there an intervention in between there that can
it may not be an intervention, but there's a management. There's heightened, that's what I was questioning my peers. There's heightened surveillance. There's heightened surveillance. Let's say that was the intervention.
And I guess for me, that's also good for community midwives to be aware of. But right. I'm not sure in the rules, what's a consult going to get at? It doesn't seem like a transfer is indicated for new onset proteinuria. In the absence of other things, we're just going to be more vigilant, which I totally agree with you that we should be, and the research indicates that. I just don't know an appropriate place to incorporate that into the rules.
I agree, and I agree with that, because honestly, if you're not doing it as a routine screen, then you're not going to find the issue without other things. Although, I mean, I don't know. I mean, what would you do? I don't know. Because if you're doing it, you want to know. See, I think this is where I always have a problem. A lot of times what we see is people get a lab and then they don't know what to do with it, and so they ignore it, right? We've all seen that happen. And so I guess this was just an attempt to give some validity to a lab that you may see that you're not sure what to do with. And I'm going to go back to Colleen and my statement of you cannot legislate common sense. So if you have a lab result that's abnormal and you don't know what to do with it and you ignore it and something bad happens, then we deal with it. Unfortunately, by not giving guidance, then through the rules, then it's hard to have it be a problem. Although then, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Maybe not. I would just hope that people would acknowledge when something's not normal, even if they're not quite sure what to do with it.
So are you thinking putting value?
I don't want to put a number on it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think
just so people know if it's abnormal.
Right. I mean, that's the question is, would you ever like you're saying, well, if somebody had a history of preeclampsia, so I'm going to ask them, maybe the community midwives, if you have a patient who had a history of preeclampsia with their first pregnancy, is now coming to you in your second pregnancy, would you do anything different for surveillance, with the thought that up to 30% of people can have a recurrence? I mean, would that be a group you'd say, oh, maybe we should look for proteinuria. Maybe before I gave you these articles, you wouldn't have done it. Maybe now you've read the articles, would you have done it? You know what I mean? But it's more of an education piece. And it's hoping, so that's what I was thinking as I was gathering this data, is maybe this needs more to go to SILCA and Oregon Midwifery Council as, as an education piece. And, these are the people you may want to consider doing screening on. And if you're doing the screening, this is a result you may want to intervene or change your surveillance on,
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want it completely discounted as a problem. I just don't also agree that, I also do agree that I don't know that it's an administrative rule.
Yeah.
But I want to give people I don't know. I didn't want you to ignore a finding, but you may never have that finding.
This is Sarah. I don't want to go backwards, but it seems reasonable to say document follow up with abnormal lab findings. It doesn't say maybe what you have to have done, but it does acknowledge that you understood that abnormal finding and you've done something with that information.
Mm-hmm. So that would be something this would be in a different part of the rules that I don't think we currently have open. Yeah. But I think we should make note of that and consider it for the next time those rules are open.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. But I agree with you, Sarah, that seems like a reasonable thing to put into our, practice standards. Mm-hmm. That hopefully people are already doing, but...
Right, you would hope that they would already do that, but...
So, Wendy, what would you suggest as far as like an educational piece if you were thinking that was more irrelevant for something like the Oregon Midwifery Council to offer?
Well, I guess the question is, what's the standard regarding routine urine dips? It sounds like they're not being done. Is there a population that you could find evidence that a routine urine dip would have some utility, and do it in that population? I don't know, a population that maybe they're starting on aspirin, right? Because are you guys using prophylactic aspirin? It's a part of a management strategy in a certain group of women that deserves to be acknowledged, and who has a high probability of having a normal pregnancy outcome, but has a higher than baseline probability for having an outcome that takes her out of your care, ultimately. You know what I mean? So,
Wendy, I don't know if it's reassuring to you, but preeclampsia was a topic in our most recent, the Portland Spring Conference, and there was discussion of, monitoring and risk assessment and using aspirin and the evidence on all of those things. So that is something that's being talked about among community midwives.
So maybe this needs to be incorporated in that. If you have taken out standard urine dip, then it may be worth thinking about who they'd have some utility for. Mm-hmm. And that's where I would put this.
Yeah, and like Christine was saying, there's many, while it's not routine, there's many indications that you would be doing it, right? With somebody with blood pressure or weight gain or history, that those things that licensed midwives should be aware of also.
Yeah.
This is one I wanted to kind of go back. I was the one that had talked about it not being evidence-based to do routine dipsticks, and I pulled the latest version of the up-to-date article, and I had sent it to Sammy and asked that it be sent out, but I don't think that happened. In the latest
one of us. There was an up-to-date thing I heard in one of the emails.
I didn't see it. It's all right. I was just going to read the section that was applicable. It's really short. Assuming I can find it again. It says, because the urinary dipstick has low diagnostic accuracy for the detection of proteinuria in pregnancy, it is not recommended as a routine screening test for preeclampsia by the United States Preventative Task Force. The detection of proteinuria by dipstick may be used for the diagnosis of preeclampsia at the level of 2+ or greater if quantitative methods are not available.
Right, but I guess we're talking about using it in a different way, and I think it's hard because I live in a different world than all of you, and in the world of high risk OB, it is still standard of care because they have so many people that are higher risk, and so it's not a routine screening tool. It's actually more of a it's not a
risk-based
screening tool per se. It's more of a tool that's used to monitor people that are at higher risk for the condition.
And there was, Wendy, in some of the articles you sent, it seems like a single dip is not, it doesn't have great sensitivity or specificity, but if we get it two prenatals in a row, then both of those things increase, for what it's worth.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, again, if it's not being done as a routine screen, then I don't think it's worth putting in. And I think as long as there's education around it, that's fine.
So should we move on?
Sure.
Okay.
So this is Sylvie. Does anybody have, besides the one change that we did about the hospital privileges, does anybody have any changes they want to make to this rule?
I think there were some other little tiny changes, but they got incorporated. It was just like spelling or grammar errors. But it looks like those have been done as well, so no.
Perfect. Okay, so now you guys need to talk about and make a decision. Do you want these to go before a Rules Advisory Committee?
Yep.
Or do you want to file them as proposed and allow for public comment and then do the public comment and use that? If you do the Rules Advisory Committee, it's going to make it slower. I'm just giving you pros and cons. They'll slow the process down because they'll have to do it. Sammy will have to have a meeting for one. Remember, we're closed to the public, so that'll be interesting. And then once they finished and finalized that, then they would give you, then Sammy would give you whatever their recommendations were. You would again review the rules, address whatever the recommendations, whether that means change them or not change them. That'll be up to you guys to decide. And then you would do proposed rules, and then it goes out to public comment and all that stuff. So you guys need to talk about how you want that done.
I find these rules to be similar enough to the ones that are in place already that I don't suspect that we would get much information from a draft that they have already given us before. So I prefer to just put it out to public comment. So that's just my perspective.
I agree with Kelsey. This is Beth.
This is Meredith. I also agree.
This is Christine. I agree as well.
Sarah, I agree.
Lynette, I also agree. Can you say what you just said one more time, Kelsey?
I'm think that this version of the rules is similar enough to the last version of the rules that went to the RAC that I don't think we would get anything new from it.
Okay. Okay.
I don't think there's, okay.
They can approve them with proposed rules today, and then I could file them for July 1. It's on there by support action. Unless you want it more clear.
Are you comfortable? Oh, sorry, we're discussing whether or not Heather feels that it's, so this is what's the agenda. So it's administrative rule deliberation, risk assessment indications, and then items for board action. What we're assuming is it's number 7 is that they can adopt proposed rules. So it starts the clock, then it can go out for public
Should we
comment.
wait till July? It's not going to make much difference. Their meeting in July is the 16th, so I could have them filed, proposed by August 1.
So everybody understands our issue is that we get that you guys are willing to move forward, but we didn't quite realize you would be so willing to move forward today. And so the public doesn't know that you're going to vote on moving the rules forward, and so that's where Heather's looking at the agenda to determine if there's enough notice on that agenda
Like safer.
to move it forward or have the actual vote at July, at the
16th.
July 16th meeting.
I think most conservatively it makes
Yeah,
sense to
and
wait.
if we're not doing a rack, that way everyone knows.
This is Kelsey, and I think it's fine to wait. I think that we all accepted that this process was going to take longer than anticipating, that it was taken.
Okay, so we'll make sure that it's on the agenda for July 16th, that it actually specifically says to vote on proposed rules. We do have another set of rules that we need you to vote on, but this one we'll have on the 16th. So we'll get that for the next agenda so it's very clear to the public, and that, because that'll start the clock. All right, this is Sylvia again. What was item number 7 for? Oh, whether or not they wanted a rack.
Yeah, just kind of decision making on how to
Okay,
move
gotcha,
forward, which
okay.
they did.
Which we just did number 7 then.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to number 8. Sammy.
It is just basically administrative, just showing that we filed the temporary rule to lower the fees, and I'll be filing a proposed rule in like the next 2 hours to make it permanent, go out for proposed rule, make it comments, and then I have it planned to become permanent. What date?
August 1.
September 1?
August 1.
August 1.
According to your schedule.
Yes, August 1st.
Anybody have any questions on the fee? That's getting that discount back to what it was prior to. We're just going through the formal process.
Yeah.
We filed a temporary rule to get it into place immediately. But then you have to turn around and file it permanent to get it into the rules permanently. So this is just that process. If anybody has any questions.
I mean, that's not really the board though, right? That's
Correct,
was
just
written
FYI.
and adopted by the office. But we don't actually have-
Correct. We're just letting you know that this is what's going on. Yes.
Really for the record.
Yeah, it's more for the record.
And is it in response to COVID, or why?
Well, that's how we got the temporary to go into immediate, because obviously the COVID-19 has caused financial difficulties on many individuals. If we didn't want to do an immediate, which is a temporary rule, then we would have to go through the slow process, and with not meeting and everything, then your discount would not go into effect until August 1 of 2020. So with the whole financial instability of the economy, and also with the information that we were receiving about how with COVID-19 a lot of mothers at the time were scared to go into the hospitals and wanted to make sure that they could have a midwife instead of going into what they felt was an unsafe environment, because we were still not knowing how contagious it was and how many beds hospitals were going to need due to the outbreak. Any questions? No? Go ahead.
Sounds good.
Okay. Then we will move right along to item number 9. We still have 10 minutes. I do believe we have, Meredith, you should have a script that you could start out. And far as I know, there should be 2 public members on the phone, both Silka and Sharon. So, but you need to read your little script first.
Okay, at this time, the Board of Direct Entry Midwifery will hear public/interested parties' feedback. Members of the audience, please wait until you've been recognized by the chair. Once recognized, please state your name and affiliation to the board for the record. I don't know if you guys want to call on people since you have the list,
Well, this is...
or if that has to be the board.
No, you're fine. So it's my understanding, there's no list, but they both emailed in.
Yep.
So it's our understanding, and we can ask if there's anybody else. But it's Silka Akerson and Sharon Fuchs on the phone. So if you watch Silka, if you have any comments that you would like to make, now would be the time.
Hi, everyone. This is Silka Akerson from the Oregon Midwifery Council. I just wanted to say that I'm grateful to you all for having a meeting after a hiatus from meetings. Thank you for doing that work. And in terms of the rule changes that you made, I know doesn't necessarily make sense for me to have an opinion about this, but I think all of these are anticipated changes and minor adjustments, and it seems like a rules advisory committee would be an extra step, unneeded step when it's all fairly anticipated. And I also just wanted to thank you all for the reduction in the fee, the license fee and license renewal fee during the COVID-19 pandemic. I think it's a really appropriate action, and just want to appreciate you all for it. That's all.
Thank you, Sharon, or Silka. Sharon Fuchs, are you on the phone, and do you have any comment?
I am.
Okay, and would you like to make a comment?
Yes. I have one comment in regards to the urine dipstick. And you can hear the back and forth between Dr. Smith, and it's really struggling, and the board. And my view is urine dipsticks are indeed still used. And for the licensed direct entry midwife, this is basically at times the only tool you have. So to use it as a basic screening tool, even though you may have some literature that equivocates about its use, what is the harm in using it and having it documented in your rules? It's the tool you have, and that is most easily available. So I advocate, and always have, documenting more in your rules. I know it seems restrictive at times, but it's you can do your educational part of it, but having it in your rules is good. And there are other professions that use your rules, believe it or not, as their guidelines. So I know you're only focused on yourselves, but others do look at that too. So I encourage you to add a little more, not always a lot more, but a little more. And since this is still being used as a screening tool, put it in. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
So this is Sylvie. Is there any other public members that are on the phone? Okay, well, I don't hear anybody. So we can move on to item number 10, which is other board business. The only thing I have, again, July 16th will be your next meeting. It will be this same format because we got notification yesterday that state offices will be closed through the end of August. So it'll be the same format. If we have an executive session, it'll work the same as we will have an executive session. It'll work the same. We will try really hard to make sure that the public is aware of a timeline so that they're not sitting on the phone waiting while we're over in the other room. And now that you've all done it once, hopefully we won't have as many technical difficulties with the phone-in thing. Another good thing might be for all of you to make sure that Sammy has your cell phone number so that she can program it into her phone and text you back and forth, trying to help you whether you do or don't have issues getting logged into either one of the phones. We will make sure that on the agenda for July 16th is also the adoption of the proposed rules. Is there anything that you guys can think of that you want to make sure is on the agenda?
I have an item for other board business.
Okay.
I was hoping we could have a little bit of a chat about some of the changes in the MANA statistics project.
In the what?
The MANA statistics project. That is no longer being used. New data is not being used as a research project, and it's not associated, to my understanding, with an IRB anymore.
Right.
And I was hoping that we could maybe talk about opening that section of the rules to no longer require Oregon midwives to participate in it. Our statute says that we have to participate in the vital statistics data with our birth certificate, but it doesn't say anything about the MANA stats, and I just don't know specifically the value of midwives continuing to participate in MANA going forward, if it's not going to be used for research.
Okay, that's fabulous. We'll get that on the agenda. Kelsey, do you have something that you could email Sammy that's like from them or some sort of, because then we can get it out to everybody as part of the materials? Or is it just like a verbal?
Yeah, I will. No, they sent out an email, I think, about it from MANA. I will try to find some documentation to send you.
Perfect, and we'll get, Just remember, anything you send, though, is going to become public record. So if you don't feel comfortable sending it, if it's a private email, then don't send it. Maybe do some sort of a summary that you could then send to Sammy. So just keep that in mind. Anything that we received is a public document. So.
Sure, I will. I think that they put like a post on their website about it, which would be public. I'll see if I can find something.
Perfect, and we'll get that on the agenda. Did you have anything else?
I can't think of anything else that I had. Although, nope, I think that's it.
Does anybody else have anything that we want to talk about at the next board meeting? You don't have to make a decision now. You can always email Sammy and we can get it on the agenda.
This is Meredith. I also just wanted to say the 16th, I will have the same timing, constraint, which is I have something starting at noon. So for me, it works better to start at 8. I don't know if that worked well for, anyone else. I know we did it, but I wanted to put that out there. I'm happy to do a 8 to this time again, or if it would make sense to move it a different day, I don't know.
So this is...
This is Beth. It worked great for me. I'm happy to keep it at 8 a.m.
Okay.
So this is Sylvie. I would prefer not changing days, as in you guys have Thursdays. Thursdays are your days. We have boards that have Fridays. Thursdays are your Thursdays. And we in the office, all of us are here before 8 a.m., so work opening at 8 is totally fine for us.
Okay.
So we'll...
I just wanted to make sure it works for other people.
Sure.
Sure.
Does anybody oppose to us moving all well, especially the telephonic ones, to, we'll move the July 16th to start at 8 a.m.?
Yep, that's...
Okay. Got it. Anything else? Because we're getting down to where either we need to adjourn or Meredith needs to leave.
I think it's a perfect time to adjourn.
I think it's yay. Do it.
Go for it, Meredith.
Okay, the Board of Direct Entry Midwifery meeting is adjourned at 11:39 a.m. Perfect.